All right, this call is being recorded for quality and training purposes. Yeah, happy hump day, everybody. I'm really excited for today's call and talk. As normal, we're going to be talking about financing, kind of what's going on a national level and local sales, what's happening in the United States, and then what's happening here in Eastern North Carolina. We're going to do the same thing with rental trains, and then I'm super pumped to talk about foreclosures. Carolyn's going to talk to you all about foreclosures. So for those that haven't been on this call, Patrick is going to kick it off and talk about finance stuff. If you guys don't know about Patrick, his bank account is only exceeded by his heart. He's a real estate investor. He's built 2 successful companies. He really has a passion for helping people out, and I'm excited to learn about what's going on in the finance world from him. Patrick, over to you.
Well, Schuyler, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me on here. So, hey guys, so as we get into the buying season, a big question that we have when we're working with people is, should I hold this in my personal name or should I hold this in my LLC name? And really the big dividing point on this, guys, so everybody knows, is that when you do a conventional loan, you're going to close it in your personal name. It's going to show up on your credit report, and there's going to be no prepayment penalty on that. And we're going to talk about rates here in a second of why you would want a non-prepay compared to possibly taking a prepay. So just want to touch base on that. With institutional financing, the way that it works, it's you're going to close it inside of an entity name on an LLC. It's not going to show up on your credit report, and you're also going to have a prepay, but you're going to get lower rates on investment properties in this time and day because that prepayment penalty is there. And we have ways of tweaking those to where you can go from a 1-year to a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, and 5-year prepay. You're always going to get the best deal with a 5-year prepay because you're guaranteeing them that interest for the long run. So they're going to give you such a much lower rate because you're guaranteeing them that 5 years of interest going forward. So just a big topic that I've had with a lot of investors right now is that aspect. Should I close it in my personal name or should I close it in an LLC that doesn't show up on my credit report? Because the rates are actually better right now, sometimes closing the institution name compared to putting your own personal name because you're guaranteeing them 5 years worth of interest essentially. So just wanted to touch on that.
Patrick, is institutional versus conventional, is that like MC Capital versus MC Mortgage?
No, it's who the end user is. So basically conventional is Fannie and Freddie Mac. I'm sure everybody's heard of that they're basically, you're doing a global analysis of everything, that you're checking your DTI, we're checking your assets, verify you're working on a job. When we do institutional financing, it's project specific. It's only based off of the cash flow of the property on whether we're using Airbnb income to support it or we're using what we call DSCR, that kind of stuff. But the good part about it is we're not getting into your tax returns, and you can do that as a partnership. You can do that as where you're the general partner and you go raise limited, funds from limited capital partners, essentially. And you're the one running the project and they're just putting the money up. So, the institutional financing, which there are 30-year fixes, just like conventional is. But with institutional financing, if for cash flow purposes, we can also do 10-year interest only, which is nice because a lot of these properties that you're buying right now, especially if you're going to do it as an investment, they're not forever properties. They're just for cash flow right now. So a good way of doing that is not worry about paying down the principal. You're just trying to get the cash flow from it, go interest only. And then when you sell it, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road, you're just recapturing the appreciation that you've got off of it, but you've not had to go into forced savings, but you've maximized your cash flow.
Sweet.
That help? All right.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So where are rates going from here? The number one question that everybody's asking, where are they going? They are going to move. But here's the best part about it. So is you can look here, just basically pulled up a chart of where, really what I tell you to look at is to look at 2000 going forward. We can see that the last uptick we had was prior to this one was back in 2006, 7, because everybody could get a mortgage no matter what, as long as you could breathe. So basically they were able to, raise rates at that time because the economy was booming. You can say after that, we had the drop down 2010 through basically 2016, 15, 16, rates started moving back up. Then needless to say, COVID came, rates dropped like a rock. Everybody was able to get interest rates in the 2s and the 3s. And now we have basically hit 8.5 on prime rates. Okay, so Jerome Powell, who is the Fed, basically came out last week and said that, look, rates are stable right now. The expectation is that there is going to be 3 rate cuts by the end of the year, and that there will be 10 over the next 2 years, 2 to 3 years. So what that boils down to, and this is just from my experience, whenever the government says that they're going to do something, it always takes longer to do it, whether it's raise rates or lower rates. So the good part is that the conversation that rates are going to go up or go down actually is what controls the market. And because they're saying right now that they are anticipating on lower rates, that is actually what's selling the market and driving lower interest rates right now. Okay. So the big piece of it is that rates are pretty much, this is the new norm. Government's not doing any quantitative easing. They're not, inflation's not reared its head anymore. I mean, we're basically right around that 3%. The government wants it at 2%. So the closer we get to 2%, they will start lowering prime rates, which will lower the cost of borrowing money for everybody. So rate forecast is that things will slowly float down like a feather. And the odds of will there be 3 rate cuts this year, who knows? But that's what they're saying, and that's what's controlling the market right now.
Okay, cool. I got so much fun stuff to talk about that I don't want to hold this up. But did they print a lot of money in the late 70s? I think we came off the gold standard in 79. Is that, I wonder if there's a correlation between that and rates jumping up, and then some other apartment supply stuff that I want to talk about when we get to rentals. Cool.
In the late 70s.
Yeah.
I was just a little wee baby then, so I don't really know. But bottom line, here's just a bunch of products that we're doing, guys. Just, anything that you're looking to do investment property wise, just lots of fun things. One thing I added on here from last quarter was that 70% HELOCs for investment properties. We have a lot of people jumping on those to take advantage of the equity. It is gives you up to 70% of the appraisal value from that great rate you have on the first, if you need capital to go do something else. That is a home equity line that's available for you on investment properties now. But other than that, all the normal stuff.
And they close wicked fast. You can have your money in 2 weeks, and they'll value your property more than you do. They'll give you so much more money than you think you're going to get. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, the nice part is it's an automatic evaluation. There's no appraisal actually done at your house. They do it
Zillow.
Through Zillow, essentially. Come up with that. Once we have the value, that's what it is. It's 70% of that value.
Yeah. And if y'all haven't done business with Patrick or used him to borrow anything, I can't recommend him enough. It's easy. And then once you pick a lender, they have all of your information. So the next loan is just super, super easy. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Schuyler.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Patrick. All right. So next, Sean McDonnell is the Quiet Waters Realty Group. He started that like 6 months before we kind of started Cedar Ridge Management. He's a great friend. It's been a lot of fun to build our businesses together. The dude hustles, the dude invests, and he really cares for his clients. He wants to see people succeed. So if you guys need an agent, Sean or anyone on his team is definitely who you should reach out to. Sean, you there?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. My camera shut off. I need a new computer. But anyways, the sales data over the past 3 months is it's pretty similar to a lot of 2023. A lot of people were expecting prices to come down when interest rates shot up and there was more economic uncertainty, but that did not happen. So it's continuing. Values are continuing to increase, which makes it really hard for investors right now buying properties on the market. But you can see here, this is as of February. I don't have the March data yet, but just in New Hanover County, property values have gone up about 13%. There's been a dramatic increase in new listings, which is adding to the days on market too, just with inventory going up pretty strongly. So days on market is up 39%, and then new listings are up 20%. But values are continuing to rise. Next slide, please. Pender County, a little bit different. Pender County has plateaued a little bit in terms of values. Days on market went up 10%. If you look at the number of new listings in Pender County from this time last year, it's up almost 50%, which is definitely adding to, there's a lot more inventory, and that is limiting the values increasing as much as New Hanover County. Then if you go one more to Onslow County, decent appreciation still from this time last year, 6%. I mean, that's pretty high still, I would argue. Average days on market has gone up a lot, and new listings has not increased nearly as much as Pender County. So overall, it's the days on market are increasing. We're still seeing a lot of sellers willing to give concessions to buyers to help cover closing costs or help buy down the rate. But if there is a property that is listed very well according to the closed data and is in good condition, they're still going pretty quick off the market. But if a property is listed over what the data shows or needs work, those are the properties that are sitting around. But if there's any additional data that any of you all want to talk about, please reach out. I'd love to talk about it. I love looking at this stuff, and I look at it every day. So Schuyler, thanks again for the opportunity to do this and for everything you all do.
Man. Can I ask some questions?
Sure thing.
Are you seeing sellers being greedy, thinking, you talk about things are selling well and not sitting for a long time if they're being priced correctly according to the data? Are you seeing a lot of sellers still, and probably real estate agents too, right? Thinking that, oh, I'm going to do this comp and we can push the envelope. You seen a lot of things listed way too high still?
I think that is kind of a common thing since I've been in the industry, but especially the last year and a half, we call them FOMO sellers, where they saw what happened in like 2021 and 2022, where pretty much everything that got listed on the MLS was going into a bidding war. There was just so much demand. Like, that is not the case anymore, but a lot of sellers, I think, generally think their house might be worth more than what the data shows. I know I do, but so dealing with the education side of it is where we try to focus a lot of our attention, where the data shows that if you list your house at what the sold data is, vice trying to push the market too much, you're actually going to get more for your house because you're going to generate so much demand in the first couple of days. People are going to want to submit stronger offers for over the list price, vice trying to list it for 20 grand over, what we think it will appraise for, and then having to slowly lower the price over the next couple of weeks until you get to a place where maybe you get one offer, but it's weak, and even it would be for even less than what you would have gotten if you just listed it at what the data showed. But yeah, it really depends. I mean, there are a decent amount of that, but yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did. Thanks. Cool. Now moving into rentals. So we're kind of we're singing the same song a little bit that we sung in Q4. There is nationally and locally, there's so much supply out there. So rents have kind of gone flat. You can see where this is nationally now. You can see where we were in January of 23. We're basically right there. It's showing a 1.1% increase. And that's because of this. And I think this is cool. So what we're looking at, this chart here, is the number of completed apartments in the thousands across the United States. So we're looking at 12 million, I think. I gotta do some math in public. 1.2 million apartments have been completed recently. And then this is the number of apartments in the thousands that are under construction right now. And we're at 3 million that are under construction. So this oversupply is why we're not pushing rent prices anymore. We're dropping rents in some places, and I'll get locally to what that means, but this is happening all over the country. And Patrick, if you you might know, I know you said you weren't born, you're just a wee little guy back then, but if we look at rate increases here, we came off the gold standard completely in 1979. And in the 70s, we had a ton of apartments built. And I just can't help but wonder if there's some kind of correlation between that and rates, and if there's something else going on. And because we had so much money printed, and this is all just ideating, guys, because we had so much money printed the last few years, if rates are going to still go down, and I think you're the person to listen to, Patrick, so I'm not contradicting you at all. I just like thinking. I thought it was interesting. You said focus on from 2000 to now, because that's probably a better trend than focusing on way back when. But yeah, it's interesting to see all this stuff kind of on top of each other.
The overlays of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also, I mean, we're all more of a global society compared to an isolated society right there, and money flows around a lot quicker.
Yeah. So we got a lot of stuff happening locally. I don't know how to find the data yet. So hopefully I can get that for you guys on the next call, but I want to find out how many apartments and townhomes are being built. I want to find a number in the 3 different counties, or areas, being like Jacksonville, Sneads Ferry, Hampstead, and Wilmington, because just on the 17 from like Porter's Neck to Holly Ridge, there's 7 major apartments.
It's okay.
7 major apartment complexes being built, and in Sneads Ferry, there's 2 major apartment complexes that have been completed, and I think there's 1 more under construction right now. So, what is that doing to us here? You can see rental rates. So in Jacksonville, North Carolina, there's a slight increase for 2-bedroom, 1 baths, a slight increase for 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and a slight decrease for 4 bedrooms. In Sneads Ferry to Hampstead, we're seeing a slight increase for 2-bedroom, 1 bath houses, like duplex styles. We're seeing a big downturn in townhomes. And that's because those townhomes are competing with all those apartments that have been built and don't have the amenities, right? If you're gonna live in something with a parking lot and no backyard, you'd rather have a pool and a gym that you don't have to pay for than a condo type thing. For 3-bed, 2-bath, we're seeing a slight decrease from Sneads Ferry to Hampstead, and townhomes again have dropped big time, and then slight decrease for 4-bedroom stuff in that same area. And then Wilmington, slight decrease all across the board. All of this data is from our rent rolls and from Zumper.com, and I also kind of checked it on Redfin to just see things. So again, same song as last quarter. There's just a lot of supply out there. I wanted to note this though, because we're getting back into busy season. So what we're kind of seeing now, and what I anticipate we're going to see over the next couple of years, is just this back to normal before COVID thing, where we're going to have more traditional busy seasons and off seasons that we got away from there for a couple of years. So Onslow County days on market, according to the MLS, is 47 days right now. In Pender County, it's 38 days. And in New Hanover County, it is 50 days. So Onslow and New Hanover, things are moving faster than they were last quarter. But in Pender County, things are actually moving a little bit slower. And all of that is straight out of the MLS. If you guys are looking to buy things before we move on to foreclosures, I definitely want to just put a big shout out, if you're a cash flow investor, to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a stronger market to rent. You're going to buy slightly cheaper and you're going to cash flow more. And then I really, really want to stress the importance of wherever you're investing, that you focus on single family homes over townhomes if your expectation is to cash flow over the next 3 to 5 years. I think that the huge influx of apartments, townhomes are going to struggle. It doesn't mean they can't be a good move if you're making an appreciation play or you want something that's pretty, where maintenance costs are lower because there's an HOA that's doing things. So I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying if you buy, know what you're buying and have the appropriate expectation for that product. Does anybody have any questions about kind of how rents are trending? No? Cool. Everybody just wants to hear Carolyn talk about foreclosure, which I also just want to hear. So if y'all haven't met Carolyn on the phone or on something like this, or I haven't talked to you guys about her, she worked with an entrepreneur that built a very large portfolio. I think like 160 units. Is that right, Carolyn?
Yes. Yep.
And all they did was buy subject to properties and foreclosures, and did a lot of creative things. So she has a lot of experience doing this very thing, and I'm just pumped to hear this. And please, guys, if you have questions, please ask up. I know foreclosures are this thing that you hear about on a Bigger Pockets podcast, or you read a book and you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to do that. And you don't know who to talk to. Carolyn has been there. So yeah, Carolyn, without further ado, take it over.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. So what we're going to talk about today, a lot of times when we hear foreclosure, people think of bank-owned properties. So the foreclosures that I was going to talk about today is actually the bank taking their properties back. So this is actually would not be considered like an REO. This is prior to that. So the very first step in the bank taking back a property, right, is, so first off, let me step back. There's 3 different types of foreclosures, right? And so North Carolina is a non-judicial state, which simply means that a foreclosure does not have to go in front of a judge to be processed, which kind of blows my mind when I first learned about all of this. So there's essentially 3 different ways that foreclosures can proceed. A power of sale, which is really the most common. Civil action is another one. Those are ones that those are really rare actually in this state, and those are cases that would be heard by a judge. But the power of sales are really the most common. Those are the ones that are handled at the local level in your local courthouses by a clerk, essentially. And it's surprising how many they are processing. So a lot of people.
Is that the county steps?
Yes, that is. Yep. So when I first started going in Onslow County, it was really like 1 or 2 clerks, and everything's open records in North Carolina, and you may know that, right? We may know that things are open records, but a lot of times we're just too lazy and don't want to figure out what that means. How do we access that information? Yeah, sure, it's public information and it's free, but how do I find it? And so, back in the day, we used to walk in the courthouse, walk behind the clerk's desk, back into the file room, and you could see anything you wanted to see. It's still like that today. You can still do that. But unfortunately, it's grown. And so the special proceedings department of the Superior Court, they handle a couple of other things besides foreclosures, but they do handle a lot of foreclosures. And honestly, there's a lot of files that are just pending, right? Foreclosures that were filed years ago and owners are fighting them or in bankruptcy, things like that. So they kind of go, onto a back burner in a parking lot, but they do handle a lot of files. So when I first learned about foreclosures, it's often it raises negative feelings, right? Like people think about the poor owners, right, that are losing their property, or the greedy banks, and like horror stories of ripped out plumbing and terrible situations. But honestly, the opportunities that are there is a very unique buying experience if you're willing to do the work and you're willing to check into it. So I wanted to kind of talk about some of the benefits of it. So obviously I've already touched on the free leads and public records. So again, it's all available at the courthouse. Onslow County has actually made it even easier. And so they will actually, if you just request it, they'll send you a Excel spreadsheet with all of the current files on it, and it has all this information. So they'll actually just send you the Excel spreadsheet. I used to create that weekly. I used to go down to the courthouse physically in person every week, pull all the new files, add the data. I had my own spreadsheet. Now they have a clerk that does it. It's so simple and so easy. It's actually, it's kind of nice that the county would be doing something, to help people. So less competition is another benefit to this. So obviously it takes work, and a lot of people don't know the system and how it works. And so obviously just the lack of knowledge, people just don't do it. The other thing is there's not a lot of people that are really cash buyers. So when you're looking at purchasing in this type of a sale, it would be a straight cash purchase. So you're not looking at using any kind of, traditional financing, anything like that. So again, it limits the buyer pool to, who's actually looking to purchase these properties. So equity building, you're buying a property as is. You've got the opportunity to, upgrade, renovate the property as you see fit, obviously increasing your property's value, demanding higher rental rates, and then quick transaction. So lenders are obviously looking to move foreclosures as quickly as possible to recoup, right, their lost profit. So it's actually a fairly quick process. In the state, foreclosures can happen really in 60 days. Like it's fairly quick. So the lender has no, emotional attachment to these properties, right? So you don't have to worry about them backing out or having any kind of a contractual, issue. So they put the property, essentially up for sale, people bid on it, and, you buy it. So let me move on to the next slide. So I wanted to quickly just go over the actual process of what happens. So in order for a property to be sold, they have to have a court order, essentially, ordering the sale. So if you were to do, say, a deed search or a record search, right, for the Register of Deeds, often you'll see the very, very first thing that ever gets recorded is a document called the substitute trustee filing. And so on a deed of trust, I'm sure we've all noticed, right, on that front page, there's a box and there's always a trustee. Sometimes it's the attorney that handled your closing. It can be it's just a third party. So what happens is the lender substitutes and assigns an attorney essentially to handle that foreclosure. And so that's usually the first document that you see filed if you were to do a record search. So typically what that just means to me is there's a foreclosure coming. If I happen to see that, I know that they're getting ready to file a foreclosure. So the next thing that would happen would be a notice of hearing. So they do have to send that out a number of days in advance. They post it at the property, attempt to, locate the owners, if you will. They schedule the hearing. At the hearing, the clerk actually hears those. Again, they do not go in front of a judge. And the sub-trustee, the attorney, has to essentially establish, a few things: that there's a debt, that they defaulted. And so they would prove when they sent their notice of default, and, the right to cure, all of that would be included in their letter that they had sent to the borrower. So anyway, there's a list there of 6 different things that need to be established in front of the clerk for her to sign the order and essentially set the date for the sale. Again, in between that time, they have to post it at the courthouse for 20 days. I'm sure you guys have heard they have to advertise in the paper. They still do that, which is wild. The sheriff will post notices at the house, and then they will set the actual notice of sale date. And typically that can be quick. That could be a matter of 20 days in between the hearing and the sale date. So again, it can be a fairly quick process. A lot of times it's just up to the attorney, to the sub-trustee, and his workload. Maybe he's going on vacation, etc., when they set these sale dates. So when the notice of sale actually takes place, essentially what happens is the bank is the very first bidder. Whoever is owed money on the property is the very first bidder on the property. And let me see if I have okay, so they're really the very first bidder. So what ends up happening is you enter into what North Carolina refers to as an upset bid period. And you have 10 days for the public, anyone, to come and upset the bid. And so essentially, if you think of it like poker, you're going to go and raise the bid on a property over what the bank has5 So if the bank, was owed $100,000 and opened bid on a property at $100,000, your next bid would need to be 105 and some change, right? So during this 10-day period, you have to raise the bid by at least 5% over the last bidder, and you put down a 5% deposit. So the fun thing is that each time a bid takes place on a property, it resets the 10-day clock. So what ends up happening is there's some properties, there's one that I'm actually going to talk about that's been unfortunately being bid on for the last 2 months. And so of course, all the investors are going in very small increments, right? Everybody wants to pay the least amount as possible. So it's, slowly creeping up. But it's fun. Sometimes people will do a bigger chunk just to try to cut out some of the competition. So it's fun to see people's, buying strategies. But so when I say you place a bid, it's really a very simple process. It's a 1-page document that you fill out at the courthouse. The clerk will help you. And then right down the hallway, you take a check and put down your 5% deposit. So anyway, this process goes on until 10 days has elapsed without a property, the bid essentially being, bid up again or upset. So at that point, the clerk just does a report of final sale. You were notified that essentially you won that, that property. The sub-trustee, the attorney, will typically just email you or call you and say, hey, we're going to send you your deed. Here's where you wire your funds. So again, fairly quick process. And definitely has the opportunity to be able to make some money, find some good rental properties. If you're willing to do the footwork, right, to find the properties, do your due diligence. So on these properties, I'd like to make a side note here. Some of them may be vacant, some of them may be occupied. Owners, you never know the status. And so whenever we were planning on bidding on a property, you still have to do your due diligence. So you're still, if you're not doing it yourself, you need to be hiring someone who's going out to the property, seeing if they can get inside, honestly, checking the windows, because, you want to try to attempt to know, right, what your repair value is going to be, what you're going to need to do to be able to, whatever your extra strategy is on the property. So do your due diligence. most of the properties I will say are typically vacant. So a lot of owners just know that it's coming, and abandon a property. They sit vacant, it gets foreclosed. I have had a couple of circumstances where they were occupied by either the owners or possibly a tenant. And so there are laws that protect both of those classes of people, if you will, and they're a little bit different. So obviously tenants have rights, owners have rights. It's a little easier to get an owner out of a property after a foreclosure than it is a tenant, but regardless, it's possible to make it happen either way. But you also have other creative options, right? I don't know if you guys have heard of like cash for keys. You show up on a doorstep trying to get a tenant out, solve a problem. What do they need? They need $1,000 to move. They need us to rent a U-Haul truck for them. What do they need? So a lot of times you can find a solution to a problem for an occupant that may not cost you nearly as much, right? If you don't want to handle the eviction or the summary ejectment yourself. So that's kind of, I know that's a quick run through, but that's kind of the general premises for a foreclosure. What I kind of wanted to share with you guys was I used to focus on finding these properties and talking to the sellers before they were ever foreclosed on. So early bird gets the worm. So what I mean by that is, so as soon as that file was created at the courthouse, and I, went and took a look at the property, ran the numbers, etc., I'd go door knock. I go and see, is anybody living there? Is anybody not living there? Try to create a conversation with them. It gives you the opportunity to negotiate directly with the seller without having anyone else. You've got less to no competition, honestly. I never ran into anyone else that was door knocking with me. We would mail letters. I just never saw the other competition from other people. So, but it really created the opportunity to have win-win situations for these people. So a lot of owners that were struggling with, a number of different things, and are obviously was trying to hold on to their house and didn't really want to, lose it to foreclosure. What could we help you with? You want to move? Okay, great. Let's, come up with a situation where I can buy your property. You need $5,000 to move. Fantastic. We'll pay off the mortgage, give you $5,000 to move, and again, you handle the closing just like you would, go through an attorney, title search, all of that is still handled the same. It's just, if you put in a little bit of extra work, you can kind of eliminate some of the people that you might be competing against in an upset bid period. So again, there's lots of ways to do this. It really just depends on how much time and work you want to spend. But, as we see the market increasing, the investors that I think are going to be adding to our portfolios are the ones that are getting creative, that are, getting out there thinking about different ways to purchase properties, to solve issues, for people, and creating, win-win, situations, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. I know you got some examples coming up, but before we move on, Patrick, what kind of financing, if I did this, if I found somebody in pre-foreclosure, if I found somebody it was going to foreclosure and I wanted to bid on the courthouse steps per se, and I needed cash, is there a way that you could help me out?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we basically do now, you're talking to close on the deal, not for the deposit, correct?
What are my options? Yeah.
Go borrow from your credit card to get the deposit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no. So where we would come in is that basically we would do the in financing for you. So basically we could come in, if you're going to come in there, you're going to bid on the foreclosure. We would come in and help you take down the purchase and also lend you the renovation money based up to what the ARV is going to be. So you really kind of need to know how much it's going to cost you, because you're buying it at this, but you really need to make sure, like Carolyn says, being able to know what you're going to have to do to that property expense wise, so we can kind of take the purchase price plus the work you're going to do to the property, do a subject to appraisal, understand what the value of that property would be if it was in that condition today by an appraiser, and then we would lend up to 75% of that ARV. So essentially, just depending on if you're buying it right, rehabbing it right, you essentially could finance 100% of the purchase and the rehab into the transaction.
Sweet. So I'm slow, so I got to repeat this back to you. So I find something I want to buy. I don't have the cash, but I have good credit. I can go do a HELOC on my house. I can do a cash advance with a credit card. I'm doing this because I'm confident this is a good deal and this is going to work out. That enables me to lock the property up, and then I'm going to have 60 days to come up with the rest of the cash. I do the rest of my due diligence and come up with my rehab
Budget
number. Yep, my rehab budget. And then I bring that package to you. You say, yes, this makes sense. And you'll fund the rest of the deal from that point.
Correct. We want to be in a first lien position. So we will basically purchase the property for you, within that 6-day period, and provide the rehab cost, if you want it, up to 75% of whatever that after repair value is going to be.
Okay, cool. And then
I want to mention something just because Patrick just said first lien position. So again, that's another reason why it's important to do your due diligence on foreclosures. So as soon as I would find a property that I'm interested in, I'd send that address to my closing attorney and I'd say, run this really quick, do a title search on this. There's a great foreclosure in my neighborhood that's been for sale for a while. And I'm like, why is this so cheap? There's a $50,000 second position lien for solar panels on this property. And it's not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? So even when you foreclose on that property, you still owe that debt. So it's really important that you are, checking to see if there are, other people in second or third, positions that still owe money on that property or are owed money on the property.
Yeah, it sucked to end up in that position.
Yeah.
Surprise.
And the solar panels aren't even there.
Right. So there were two properties that when I went through the Onslow foreclosures yesterday, there were two properties that I wanted to mention that one of them is the top one, 212 Avery Street, is actually one that is currently in the 10-day bid period. I just went to MLS, grabbed this picture. It sold a few years back. Beautiful house. It has currently 10 upset bids. The next bid amount is $99,000. That's the deposit that would be required. The last day to bid is April 1st. So as you can see, it's a midway park. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath. Again, I haven't seen the property in person. That is something that I would do if I was, I'd have a title search run and I would take a look, try to look at the property, in person, obviously. But there are some great deals, to be had. This one kind of piqued my interest because, when she bought the house a few years back, she took a mortgage for like $150,000. The bank started the bidding in the mid 30s. And I was thinking, why in the heck would they start it so low? And I don't know, if I was physically at the courthouse, her notice of default would be in her file. And so I would be able to see exactly what she's past due and what it would take for her to get her mortgage back current. That information is not included on the spreadsheet. So I didn't have that information yesterday, but I'm thinking that she, had paid a significant amount on her mortgage. And so the bank, the lender, is obviously just trying to recoup, what they're owed, attorney's fees, et cetera. So anyway, just wanted to share that one. I think that's a great house. I might actually go look at it. And then the second one was one that recently sold. There was quite a few. There was probably 20 that sold, I would say, in the last 30 to 45 days. This one was just one that caught my eye. It's in Hubert, kind of off of Sandridge Road. Pretty, up and down Sandridge Road in Hubert is a great rental area. There's a lot of properties in there that are in this age group that have obviously, created a lot of equity in there. And so it's a 3-2, little over 1,000 square feet. So the report of final sales says that the people purchased the property for $157. And this property all day long, it's a 3-bedroom rental. You're at least, $1,600, if not a little bit more, depending on the upgrades and, the condition of the inside. So anyway, I just wanted to share one that was active and one that recently sold, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what they're selling for. So again, the points I'd just like to, hit, there's definite opportunity with foreclosures, but just be prepared to, build a team. You need your attorney, you need your people in place, on your team to help you. And you need to be able to be prepared to do the footwork and, put in a little sweat equity, into finding these properties.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that.
For sure.
Does anybody have any questions? What questions do people have? I could monopolize this and talk a lot and ask a ton of questions. Cool. So the team, so attorney, lender, probably, depending on how I'm getting my money. Who can write the check? So can I create an LLC and then have somebody on the ground that actually goes and does this for me?
Sure. Absolutely. It's honestly, it's pretty simple. You can have an as agent, fill out that paperwork for you at the courthouse. They used to take certified funds. I'd have to check and see it. Business checks were okay too. Personal checks were not at the cashier's window, if you will. But yeah, again, it's just as simple as walking into the courthouse, filling out the one page, and paying the cashier at the window.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What exactly am I looking at on this spreadsheet? Because I know you said some of them just get parked in pending and they just sit there for years. So, is there something specific on the spreadsheet that we want to look for that hey, these properties are a go and we should, we might see them coming up for bids shortly?
So you're talking about the Onslow spreadsheet that I sent you guys?
Yep.
So at the bottom of it, there are some different tabs, and I'm happy to call you and kind of go through this. But one of the let me open it up. But one of the tabs at the bottom is like the properties that are in a current bid status.
Okay.
And so one of the tabs. Let me open this up here. So one of the tabs was all the different foreclosure hearings, the upcoming dates. So again, you can use that data for different information, right? You can look at all the hearing dates and see that people have upcoming hearings in May. To me, that means, hey, I got 2 months to try to, maybe if I want to try to purchase this before it actually gets foreclosed on, I got 2 months to try to either door knock, find these sellers and see if we can, come up with an agreement. There's a benefit to that, not just for you, but saving a seller from having a foreclosure on their record is going to have credit implications for them. It's, it's going to, for numerous reasons, of course, somebody would rather sell their property and satisfy their mortgage than have a foreclosure, on their, credit for 7 years. Mm-hmm. So one of the tabs on this spreadsheet that Onslow provides, again, is the hearing dates. So again, I use this information to see what's coming down the pipe. Right. I want to know what's coming. I can start, looking into these properties. And then again, seeing if I wanted to maybe make contact with someone ahead of time. The upset bid report tab is actually the ones that are in the current bid 10-day upset bid window. And so like that Avery one, you'll notice is on the spreadsheet. I pulled that from this. And then one of the tabs is recent confirmed sales. And so again, I pulled my second example from the sheet. It just has lots of different information about what the final sale amount was on properties. So again, it just kind of gives you some, information. So, the stuff that's not on the spreadsheet, which is really important, I think, is knowing what the people are behind. If you're going to attempt to save them essentially from foreclosure and negotiate and find, an amount that works for you both and write a contract to purchase with them. You're going to kind of need to know, obviously, what they owe. And in order to do that, you're going to have a conversation. So, So anyway, so the spreadsheet, you can kind of use it for a couple of different things, but I'm happy to walk through you with a little bit more, Kevin. But yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Cool. Well,
This is less of a question, more of a statement. I've found this tremendously valuable. Not only everything about foreclosures, but just seeing all the numbers laid out on the PowerPoints as well. And yeah, that makes foreclosures look a lot more appealing. So thank you both for all your contributions to my brain today.
Nice.
thanks, Chris.
Hi, Carolyn. This is Rima here.
Hey,
How you
Rima.
doing? Thank you. You mentioned the Onslow worksheet.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I came in a little late. So where do we get this Onslow worksheet?
I can share it with you. So again, I used to go and weekly and compile this data. They've now hired a clerk that does it for you. And so there's an email address at the clerk's office that you can just email and request it, and she'll send it out to you. So typically I like to request it weekly, but I'd be happy to share the email address with you.
So that'd be great. This is very interesting. Thank you for sharing. It's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. Well, hey guys, everybody, thank you so much for coming. Happy hunting. If you have any investing questions, if you have any foreclosure questions, reach out, email, call, text. Got some exciting things coming down the hatch for this year that you'll probably reveal on Q2's call that has to do with foreclosures and stuff. So I really, really appreciate you guys. Yeah, please reach out. Let's all work on 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel together. Yeah, y'all have a good day. I'll send out a recording probably tomorrow or Friday. Bye, Rima.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Carolyn.
You're welcome.
How do I stop recording?